Good morning, everyone. I am so glad that you came out in this rainy, damp day. I do appreciate you coming out. We have a speaker that I think you're going to really enjoy. It is Dr. Beth Templin. She is a geriatric physical therapist, has been in practice for 18 years, and is a graduate of WashU. Let's give Beth a big round of applause.
All right, this will be checking to see if my mic is on. No. Steve's turning me on right now. He's taking care of me. Testing. Okay, can you hear me now? Wonderful. As Liz said, I thank you guys so much for coming out. I went out this morning and I thought, oh boy, nobody's going to show up in this kind of weather. So thank you guys so much for coming. I hope to make it worth your time and effort. So we're going to talk about better balance today. Who here has already had a bad fall? Okay, quite a few of you. Anybody here just worried about having a fall? Okay, everybody. Perfect. I'm going to give you lots of great information today. Now, who here is confident that their balance will just improve on its own? That's the right answer. Who thinks that their balance will just improve on its own? Nobody raised their hand. You all get 100%. Now, how many of you are confident in your ability to catch yourself when you slip or trip and kind of lose your balance a little bit? A couple of you feel pretty good about catching yourselves. Now, how many of you are confident about getting up and down from the floor without help of another person? Can be done, but it's not pretty, and we actually hear that often. The fact that it can be done, it does not have to be pretty. It's more important that you can do it, even if it's a little ungraceful, even if it's a little achy or painful. The fact that you can get up and down from the floor is so vital, and we'll talk about why today. And then how many of you are worried about injury with a fall, or you know somebody who's had a really big injury from a fall? Okay, injuries are one of the #1 causes of deaths in seniors, and Missouri has a higher rate. We rank 4th for the 4th highest death rate due to falls in the United States. So that's not one of the statistics that we get excited about sharing. So I don't have a clicker, so I'm just going to be waving back at Steve when I want him to advance my slides today, so I'll get some exercise in. So thank you guys so much for coming, again, braving the weather. For those of you who I haven't officially met, my name is Dr. Beth, and I am the owner of HouseFit Physical Therapy and Fitness. As Liz mentioned, I am board certified in geriatric physical therapy. It is a specialty area within physical therapy, and that means I only work with aging clients. It's who I love to work with every single day. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why people accept falling and losing their balance as kind of a normal part of the aging process when that's absolutely not true. We're going to talk about the things that you can do to decrease your fall risk. We're going to practice some exercises today so you can start strengthening those legs and improving your balance. We're going to talk about the 4 phases of falling and things that you can do to kind of de-risk each of those areas. We're going to talk about the consequences of not being able to get up off of the floor, and again, exercises that you can do to improve your confidence every single day. But first, those are my 2 daughters, Harriet and Estelle. For the 100th day of school, they were asked to dress up like 100-year-olds, okay? So they wanted gray hair, and yes, graying hair is a normal part of the aging process. I was very happy to spray paint their hair gray. They wanted to wear glasses. And yes, changes in your vision are a normal part of the aging process. So we took some old sunglasses, we popped out the lenses, and voila, we had glasses. They wanted to wear clothes that they thought made them look like a granny, so they chose dresses with cardigans and pearls. And then I don't think you can quite see in this picture because of the brightness, but they wanted to be cool grannies, and so they asked to wear hot pink lipstick. And I said yes. But before we got ready to go to school that day, my oldest daughter, who was only 7 at the time, asked me if she could have a cane to complete her outfit. Why I share this story is that was so powerful to me. And when I looked into it, children as young as 4 years of age have negative ideas of what it means to get older, including things like it's normal to lose your balance. It's normal to have trouble walking and get frail and lose your independence and become dependent on others. And I would like to share with you that that is not true. And there are absolutely things that you can do, that you can choose to do your daily activities and make a big change in your life. So let's get into some background. All right, so we know that falling is a major concern for aging adults, and there's good reason why. So we know that 1 out of 3 adults 65 and older fall every single year. So in 2023, 1 out of 3 of you in this room will have a fall. And if we look further into aging adults and we look at the older adults, once you hit 80, that number becomes 1 out of 2. So 50% of people age 80 and older fall every year. And we know that this number is probably underreported because people do not get excited to tell their spouse, their children, their physicians that they've had a fall. Okay, so this is probably low, on the low end. Okay, so it is a major problem. And once you have your first fall, 2 out of 3 people will fall again in the next 6 months. And that's typically because what caused the fall in the first place didn't magically go away. It probably got a little bit worse. Or you got a little bit fearful and started limiting what you were doing and actually got a little bit weaker, and it contributed to another fall. Again, we know that people don't like to talk to their physicians about it because they're afraid. I don't want to be given a cane or a walker. I don't want to be told I can't do things anymore. I don't want people to tell me I can't live in my home or try to take away the car keys so that I can't drive. I don't want to tell people that I'm having this problem because I'm afraid of the consequences. Okay? Next slide. So we also know that falls have a major impact on quality of life. So older adults who fall on a regular basis are more likely to have to move into long-term care. And we know that 30% of those who fall suffer a major or a severe injury. So the ones that we really get concerned about are head injuries, so brain bleeds from hitting the head, major concussions, and also hip fractures. So in particular, we like to talk about hip fractures because there's actually estimated that there are not going to be enough orthopedic surgeons to do the hip replacements needed for hip fractures and arthritis. So we want to try to get ahead of the curve because there is a shortage of orthopedic surgeons now, and there are less and less people going into medicine, into that field, and the aging population is growing. So we're seeing that there's going to be a huge disconnect in the near future, and we kind of got a glimpse of it during COVID when they stopped doing the elective surgeries. But we know that 20% of people who fall and suffer a hip fracture do not live 1 year. They die within that first year after the injury from complications of the fall. The people that do survive, 25% never return home. They end up at a nursing home level of care for the rest of their lives because they haven't been able to regain their independence and strength after that fall and injury. We know that fall-related injuries are hugely costly to the healthcare system. The average cost, and this is old data, so I'm sure it's gone up, but it's about $35,000 by the time you have your ambulance ride and you go to the ER and you have your surgery and you have your rehab and all of those things. But that's just the medical dollars. What that doesn't take into account is the emotional and some of the social impacts that having that fall has. Some people start to get afraid and they start to giving up things they love to do. They give up going on the golf course or going out in the garden or walking the dog. They don't go to the ballpark anymore. We've had so many people tell us that they haven't been to a game because they're scared to go up and down the bleachers, that they don't go to the casino anymore because they're afraid they can't go as long as they used to go. Okay, so that's the other side of the coin. There's absolutely the financial impact of a fall, but there are the other life-changing consequences of a fall. All right, so many people consider falls to be a normal part of the aging process, and I kind of alluded to this when I spoke about my daughters. So many people, I mean, if you see people around you your age having falls all the time, why would you not think it's just a normal part of the aging process? So while it is more common as you age, we absolutely know that more and more people experience a fall as they get older. It is not a normal part of the aging process. That means there's something that you can do. So most of us have been less active over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, okay? As a result, your body has responded to that decreased activity, and you've gotten weaker, and your reflexes have gotten slower, and your balance reactions are not as good. That's why you're having falls. It's because you're not moving. Age has absolutely nothing to do with it, and we'll kind of go into each a little bit more, but it's so much of the belief is that it's rooted in ageism, and that there are not enough positive examples of what aging can look like. There are not enough people out there speaking about how to get moving every day and the things that you need to focus on to improve your balance and avoid this kind of downhill spiral. So the good news, even though falls are more common as you age, there are exercises to make you more steady on your feet, to improve your leg strength, to help with that balance recovery. There are exercises you can even do to learn how to break a fall and make you less likely to have an injury when you do fall. And then when we talk about completing the fall cycle, there are exercises you can do to improve your strength to get up and down off of the floor with ease. So what we're going to do next is talk about the 4 phases of falling. Typically, when you hear a balance talk, they'll only talk about phase 1, and they never even touch on the other 3. So this is kind of where it gets fun for me. The phase 1 is the pre-fall phase. So this is before you've had an actual fall. This is where potentially you feel a little bit more unsteady on your feet, that you've gotten that cane or that walking pole, that you hold on to your spouse when you go up and down a step, that you're a little bit more cautious or aware when you go on grass or gravel or up and down a hill. You just pay a little bit more attention. But you haven't had a fall yet. You're just more unsteady. You're reaching for walls or for furniture, and you're just more unsure, okay? Phase 2 is a near fall. Now you're starting to lose your balance. You're starting to slip or trip or just get uncoordinated when you're walking. And so you're starting to lose your balance, but your balance reflexes are still good enough that you're able to catch yourself and avoid a fall, okay? The third phase is fall landing, okay? So this is where you've lost your balance, you have not been able to recover it, and you fall to the floor. And then the 4th phase is a completed fall. So even after you've fallen, you need to be able to get up off of the floor for safety reasons, okay? And so we'll talk about each of these phases a little bit more, but it kind of completes the circle all the way around. So again, in phase 1, how we treat this from a physical therapist's perspective is we work on making you more steady on your feet. So there are exercises that you can do to improve your leg strength, which is the biggest cause of loss of balance, and also improve your balance overall. So at HouseFit, we work on folks with this in our one-on-one therapy sessions, but we actually also have a balance class that meets twice a week that goes over these exact exercises, and we're adding an advanced balance class that will meet 3 times a week that actually starts next week, which we're really excited about. But at HouseFit, we can work on balance in one-on-one therapy sessions, but we also have group exercise classes, so that way after people graduate from therapy, there's a place for them to continue to do these exercises in the right way. So this is the class participation point. So I'm going to ask, we're going to do some exercises today. You guys have all of these exercises written down in your handouts, so you don't have to worry about trying to write or take notes. This is voluntary participation, so if you want to participate in some exercise today, I invite you to stand up right where you're at, and the pews are perfect because we can use them to hang on to for a little bit of balance. All right, so am I good here in the center for most people to see me? Yes? Okay. So the first things we're going to do are 4 strengthening activities. These are exercises to strengthen our legs. Because they're strengthening activities, I want you to hold on with 2 hands. You don't need to have good balance at all to do these. Now, if you've ever taken physical therapy before, if you've ever done group exercise classes before, these are going to look familiar. But what we're going to do is we're going to tweak them a little bit to make them to focus specifically on the strength you need for good balance. So let's everybody do their left leg. That way we're less likely to kick our neighbors. Okay? Again, the first one is called side hip. And if I need to move around the stage, I will. But what we're going to do is just raise our leg out to the side, but then we're going to go down 1, 2, 3. We're going to do 10 of these. Ready? So out nice and slow, down, 2, 3. And out, down, 2, 3. Make sure you're standing up nice and tall and not tipping over. Down, 2, that's 4. And out, down, 2, 5. Out, down, 2, 6. Out, down, 2, 7. Out, down, 2, 8. Out, down, 2, 9. And out, down, 2, 10. Good. How many of you could feel that in the leg that was moving? How many of you felt it more in the leg you were standing on? Okay. If you could do that and it felt really easy, the next step would be to add weight. So we recommend like adjustable ankle weights. Most people will start at about 2 to 3 pounds, and the rule of thumb is once you can do 2 sets of 10, you bump up the weight. So I would do 10 on my left leg, 10 on my right, rest about a minute, do 10 more on each. And if it felt pretty easy, that means I need to go up on my weight. So this came from a study that they did in New Zealand, and they actually focused on women in their 80s with a history of a previous fall. Okay? How much weight do you think they were able to do after doing 1 year where the rule was every time it gets easy, the weight goes up? I hear 5s and 6s. 14. Yes. So if you simply did these exercises and all you had to do was go up a pound, can you imagine how strong your legs would be a year from now if you could do that with 14 pounds? Do you think your legs would be stronger? Do you think it'd be easier to get up and down from a chair, up and down stairs, up and down from a floor? And it would absolutely improve your balance, okay? So the next one is similar. This one is back knee. So again, hold on with 2 hands. We're going to bend that left knee. I don't know, you guys might kick your pews. So you might turn sideways. We'll see. But it's a knee up and then down, 2, 3, making sure that your foot gets all the way flat on the floor again. Okay? We don't want to just hit with the toe. We want that foot flat. So let's bend the knee up, down, 2, 3. And bend, down, 2, 3. And bend, down, 2, that's 4. Up, down, 2, 5. Up, down, 2, 6. Up, down, 2, 7. Up, down, 2, 8. Up, down, 2, 9. And up, down, 2, 10. Perfect. So some of you may have felt a little bit of cramping in the back of the thigh. That happens a lot when that muscle is very weak, and it usually goes away within a week or so. Okay, so if that was you, same rules apply. As soon as that feels easy and you could do 10 on each leg, take a break and do 10 more, you have to increase the weight. So the big thing about this protocol is it's not the exercises that are earth-shattering. It's you have to do the progressive resistance training, meaning that every time the weight gets easy, you have to increase it, or you're not going to see the benefit. Now, the benefits of doing it slowly are twofold. 1, we're less likely to irritate arthritic joints, and 2, you get the muscle strength and control that you need to really see improvements in your balance, okay? The next one is a heel raise. So this one we're going to simply pop up on our tiptoes, and down, 2, 3. All the way up, down, 2, 3. And up, down, 2, 3. Up, down, 2, that's 4. Up, down, 2, 5. Up, down, 2, 6. Up, down, 2, 7. Up, down, 2, 8. Up, down, 2, 9. And up, down, 2, 10. You guys look great, by the way. Everybody was in unison. It was perfect. So not too much exciting about that one. You can make it harder by going to one leg and doing the exact same thing, okay, to just really bump up the strength if you're not using the ankle weights. The next one is a squat. This is where people struggle with the most. A lot of people have hip and knee issues, so we do recommend when you're doing squats for these kind of exercises that you make sure your feet are wide apart and that your toes are facing out a little bit. If your toes are straight on, that does put a lot of pressure on your hips and knees, so letting them go out to the side just a smidge is helpful. Also with this one, we do want you to hold on because having that little bit of support does make it easier to do. So this is nothing crazy. This is a mini squat, a partial squat. So we're just gonna go down slow. 1, 2, 3, only as far as you feel comfortable, and then we come up quickly. So we're gonna go down, 2, 3, and up. 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 I lost count, and up. I think that's 6. Down, 2, 3, 7. Down, 2, 3. I was doing so good. 8. Down, 2, 3, and 9. Down, 2, 3, and 10. Now, if you're able to do the mini squats and that feels easy, the progression is doing a full up and down from the chair with your arms crossed on your chest, trying to do 10 in a row, taking a break and doing 10 in a row. Once that's easy, you add weight. So we do this in our classroom. How much weight do you think we have people standing up and sitting down with, holding on to? 20. 20's right. We have a lot of folks hanging on to 20 pounds, but we don't just do it 10 times. We do up and down for 2 minutes nonstop. So that's not where you start, okay? But that's where you have the potential to get to. But think about how many of you have grandbabies. How many of you have pets that you hold in your lap and that you want to be able to stand up and down with? Okay? So being able to do this, first of all, probably half the people in the room might not be able to do that, and that would be normal. Get up and down without using your arms. It's a huge issue. So if you can't get up and down, first we work on that, getting that goal achieved, and then we start weighing you down. And can you do it 10 in a row? Great. Then, again, in classroom, we do everything for 2 minutes. So we have people up and down from the chair for 2 minutes in a row holding weights, and it's so glorious to see. All right, you guys can all sit down. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go back one slide still. So those were the strengthening activities, and there's 2 balance activities that we asked people to focus on. The first one is a one-leg stand. So how long do you think you should be able to stand on one leg without holding on, even into your 80s and 90s? How long? Ooh, I got some 10 seconds. 20. So you should be able to cross your arms on your chest and stand on one leg comfortably, no weeble wobbles, okay, for 20 seconds. When it's less than 20 seconds, it tells us you have weakness in your legs, particularly in these hip muscles, okay? And if you stand less than 5 seconds, you are at risk for having a fall, okay? So this is one that we really get people to work on. Now, some things will tell you just to do this and just keep picking that foot up until you can hold it up longer. That's not going to work. We find people have better success when they stand with 2 hands, stand on one leg for a full minute. Some of you might only be able to last for about 30 seconds before your whole leg starts to shake, okay? But work up to a minute and then switch legs, work up to a minute. Repeat 3 times, and this is all written down on the handouts for you. All you have to do is follow it. Once that becomes easy, then you graduate to one hand and stand for a minute. I guarantee if you're new to this, that leg will be shaking because it's working so hard. The reason why you can't stand on one leg is you don't have the strength. It's not a balance issue as much as a strength issue. So this helps you to build up the strength you need in the position you need to use it in. Then you can get fancy. Then you can start taking that hand away, okay? The other balance activity that we recommend everybody does is heel-toe walking. So finding a kitchen countertop, a long hallway, a banister, and being able to have some hand support while you work on that heel toe. You can look down at first to make sure your feet are on track, and then you want to be able to do it looking up, and then you want to be able to do it with your eyes closed. Okay. So there's always a way to make it harder. But those are the exercises that have come out of the research as the top exercises to improve your balance at home. All you need is some adjustable ankle weights. The strengthening activities are done 3 days a week. You want to take a day off. Especially if you're aggressively increasing your weights, you need a rest day. On the days that you're strength training, the goal is to create little tears in the muscle. That way on your rest days, your body knits them back stronger. That's how we get strength, okay? Even bodybuilders, people who go to the gym all the time, they might go every day, but they're doing a chest day and a back day and a leg day. They're never working the same muscles 2 days in a row. If you do that, you're more likely to cause injury. But if you just listen to your body, as soon as it becomes hard or it becomes easy, add some weight, do it 3 days a week. That's the recipe that those ladies followed to get to 14 pounds in a year. Okay, so I know you can do it. All right, next slide, please. So near fall, this is the phase of balance where we work on improving your balance reflexes. So when you lose your balance, it's a reflex. It happens automatically. By the time you've stubbed your toe and fallen, you've either recovered and looked around to make sure nobody saw you trip and catch yourself, or you tripped and you're on the ground and then you're looking around to make sure nobody saw you, okay? So it happens automatically. And as we age, these reflexes slow down. But it's not because you turned 65 and they got slower. It's not because you turned 75 or 85 and they got slower. It's because for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you haven't used those reflexes and they're just rusty. The great thing about the reflexes is that they tune up very quickly, and we often see improvements within a single session. Strength training, which we just covered, on the other hand, takes 6 to 8 weeks to see really big improvements in your strength. Okay, so strength training takes a long time. Balance reflex training happens within a couple of sessions. So it's nice because it happens in fast speed. So you can learn to improve your balance reflexes, but you have to challenge your balance, okay? And I'll show you ways we can do that. So what we do is called push training. So in therapy, when we're looking to improve your balance, we push you off balance to give you the opportunity to practice catching yourself, okay? Sounds terrifying, right? And for me, the pusher, it's also a little bit nerve-wracking because I have to be able to guarantee that I can catch you. So it's hard to be able to push you hard and fast enough to replicate real life while being able to keep you safe. But I do have a short video of what that looks like. We'll see if Steve and I can get it to play. Oh, there it is. So this is Jackie. She's one of my 90-year-old patients. And actually having her standing on a piece of blue foam, which makes it even harder for her. So I'm going to shove her off balance forwards, backwards, and sideways. But I feel pretty confident that I can catch her because I also think she's about 90 pounds. And I've got that sturdy wall in front of me. But you get pretty aggressive, but this still doesn't feel real life. It's a good starting place. But again, if I was doing this with somebody who was 6'2" and 250, I would not feel as confident that I could catch them. So the good news is we now have access to better technology to allow us to replicate real-world slips and trips. So next slide when it works. We're having a little challenge with this. Oh, perfect. So new technology now exists that allows us to replicate real-world slips and trips. Like these babies happen fast, but in a safe and controlled environment. And the research on this balance trainer called it a vaccine against falling, saying that it will reduce your fall risk for 6 months, that the reflexes stay tuned up for that long, and then you just come back in. So like you go to see your dentist every 6 months for a preventative checkup, they recommend you come in and get balance training on this balance trainer every 6 months. And I've got some videos and pictures to show you. So this is just a picture, but this is the Active Step balance trainer. Oh, let's go back to the picture. And if you can't see well here, It does show up a little bit better on the screen that I get to look at. But you'll see there's a big overhead arch, okay? Mary, who's our participant, is strapped into a safety harness that is hooked to the overhead arch. And then she's over a very fancy treadmill that can just take off. So there are 5 different levels, 1 through 5. We start everybody at a level 1. We push forward, backwards, and sideways. And then if you pass, we are able to graduate you up to the higher levels. So again, some people think it's like a roller coaster ride. Other people find it absolutely terrifying. But it's fantastic because we're able to dose people and actually objectify it a little bit more to find out how you're getting better. I think we'll do the next one. It should be a video. So this is a video of the pushes. So once it starts playing, perfect. Nancy is one of our ladies with Parkinson's. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, this is the wrong video. But this is Mary. She's actually in a walking protocol. So we know how hard of a push she can take. We also know her normal walking speed. You see me jump as well. And so once we've figured that out, then we can replicate real world slips and trips and see improved balance. In a typical session, we will trip somebody 40 to 50 times. So it's a lot. But if it keeps you from falling in the real world, it's a good 45-minute investment. So usually for people who don't have other big issues going on, they just come in one session every 6 months. For people who are having lots of falls, we'll integrate it into their therapy sessions. So some of our therapy clients are on it once a week, but they usually have a lot going on if they qualify for the therapy in addition to it. Okay, let's see what the next, I don't know if something happened to my videos or they got out of order. Okay, well, that's my fault then. Yeah. All right, so, but the good news is, like I said, when I tell people that balance and fall prevention is my passion, like, I'm very serious about it. That machine costs $85,000, and there's only 12 of them in the United States, and most of them are in research labs still. So they had one for sale that was, that a lab was closing, and I bought it because I had to have it, because the technology and when we have people on it, they come off and they just feel so much more confident in their ability to catch themselves. And we haven't been able to find anything else even close to it out there available. So highly recommend checking that out. So phase 3 is fall landing. So this is where we actually teach people and we help them practice safe landing techniques. Okay, so there are things that you can do. If you think about gymnastics or volleyball players or all those crazy downhill skiers, they fall all the time and they can do it without injury. So you can take a lot of those same principles and apply it to the aging population, and that's what we've done. All of our therapists are trained in these techniques, so if you're looking to do this in one-on-one therapy sessions, we offer that, and then we also offer it in a group setting. So I have a video next, if it works, that kind of shows the Safe Landing Workshop. So this is where we did it with a group. We do use crash pads, and we teach you how to fall forward, backward, and sideways. Everybody in this video is in their 70s, so there's some of my youngsters, but they have been practicing, and we start low to the ground, and then as you get better, we start from a partial height fall, and then we work our way up to a full height fall. Okay, but it's important to be able to tackle all those directions, especially sideways falls. Remember how we talked about hip fractures and how poor the outcomes are? The number one way to break your hip is to fall sideways. 95% of hip fractures are from a sideways fall. And if you think about it, we move forward in our everyday lives. We kind of move backwards a little bit now and then. We almost never move sideways anymore. So those muscles and those reactions in particular are the ones that decline the fastest, but they're also the ones that respond the best to the training. Good? Let's see what the next slide is. So we teach people how to fall. And again, we teach all levels, and a lot of people only do that first level close to ground. But we've had one lady who fell backward all the time, We'd only practiced like level ones, and she's like, I was in the parking lot, and I could feel myself falling backwards. She's like, but I stuck my butt out, and I just sat down. She's like, and it was no big deal. So instead of falling backwards and hitting her head again, she knew, because she had practiced, low to the ground, and she was able to just sit down on the parking lot. So it was not ideal, but it was much better than the other alternatives. Yes, yes. And this is, the question was she able to get up? Yes, and we practice this with everybody we see. Completed falls, you have to be able to get up and down from the floor. So I love teaching people to get up and down from the floor. And I thought it was just a fun skill to like learn and know. And then I saw an article that was published about the consequences of not being able to get up from the floor. So the longer you are trapped on the floor, the more complicated and longer your recovery will be after the fall, even if you don't hurt yourself. So even if you have just bumps and bruises and are a little bit sore but no major injuries, if you are trapped on the floor, your recovery is more complicated and you're actually more likely to die. So in the medical literature, it's called the long lie. And I'm going to look in my notes so that I can give you these statistics correctly. So the long lie is when you're trapped on the floor for more than an hour. Hang on, I got to find I have it here. I know I do. And the consequences are, here we go. We can do a next slide. Yep, so if you are not able to get up off of the floor after a fall for more than an hour, you're at risk for developing these complications. So pressure ulcers, okay, pneumonia, rhabdomyolysis, which is this really fancy medical term for breakdown of your muscle tissue. The problem is when your body starts breaking down your muscle tissue, it creates toxins that are really overload your kidney and your liver and cause renal and liver failure. So just from being stuck on the floor, it really starts this cascade of nasty events that lead to all these medical complications. Hypothermia from being trapped on a cold floor, dehydration from not being able to get access to fluids, being incontinent because you can't get up to go to the bathroom, fear of falling because once you've fallen and you've been trapped on a floor by yourself, unable to get up, you never want that to happen again, and death. So when this study came out, they did this in assisted living, like independent living, senior living community, because they can track the falls there pretty good. They can kind of get a good gauge of how long their residents were trapped on the floor before they were able to activate their help button. Okay, so they do notice that 45% of people who fall don't injure themselves, but they're still unable to get up from the floor. So out of every person that falls, 45% of these people fall, no injuries, but they're just kind of stuck. They can't get up off of the floor. 20% of these people go to the hospital just to get assessed and just make sure that there's nothing going on, and again, no injury. But 50% of those people die within 6 months. I couldn't believe it. You fall, you don't get hurt, but you're stuck on the floor for more than an hour, you have a 50% chance of dying within 6 months from all of this nasty stuff that starts to happen to your body when you're stuck there. And it happens more often than we think. One of my patients mentioned, and she's not even a patient, she's just one of our class participants, mentioned in passing that she kind of slid out of bed the other night. She didn't want to wake up her husband, so she pulled a pillow and a blanket down and she just slept on the floor. Sharon, what are you doing? So we had a nice heart-to-heart talk. But it is a major issue. So every person that I talk to, it does not matter if you've had knee replacements. It does not matter if you have arthritis or back pain issues. You should have a way to get up and down from the floor, even if it requires crawling to a chair or a couch or pulling up on a table. It's something you should practice every day to make sure that when you need it, you can do it. So after this study came out last year, we created a program specifically to address it. We were already doing it in our one-on-one therapy sessions pretty regularly, but we made sure it was kind of a requirement that if you get therapy with us, you have to at least start the process of getting up and down from the floor. And then we've created programs to go out in the community because not everybody needs physical therapy. Like somebody said, I can do it, but it's not pretty. One of my other ladies told me I just look like a beached whale when I do it. So if you feel like that, then we can do it. Like I said, we do it as a workshop series so that you can kind of master this technique. And I think I've got some video of it. Oh, perfect. So this is we did with a group of 8 participants. And the lady in the back corner there, Beverly, she had her knee replaced 12 weeks before she did this workshop. So like I said, it is a complete myth that you're not allowed to kneel or crawl or get up and down from the floor after knee replacements or with really severe arthritis. There are things that we can do to get you there. But what we do in this class or in our therapy sessions is we teach you to get up and down from the floor, and then we get you comfortable doing exercises on the floor to build the strength and the confidence that you need to move from point. If you're interested in working with us, we offer a free balance consultation. So you can call us, you can email us and say, hey, I want that free balance thing, and we will carve out 30 minutes for you to meet one-on-one with one of our physical therapists. We'll find out what your balance concerns are, what you've been struggling with, maybe what you've done in the past, and what your goals are, and then we'll actually do some balance testing on you to find out how good or not so good things are, and then we'll be able to make a recommendation specific to you. So we encourage people to take advantage of those. Like I said, we can do them at the South County Gym, or we can do them in your home. So I will open up for questions.
Does health insurance cover this?
So the question is, does health insurance cover? So we are a Medicare provider. So traditional Medicare, the red, white, and blue, covers therapy 80%, and typically your supplemental or secondary will cover that other 20%. With that being said, we're at the beginning of a calendar year, so all the deductibles have reset, so there might be some out-of-pocket cost initially until the deductibles. For Medicare Advantage plans, we are not in network with any of those. We do have a private pay rate, and some of them will reimburse really well. Some of them reimburse poorly, and some of them don't reimburse at all. But that is one of the things that we will look into for you at that free assessment. We'll get copies of your insurance cards. We'll have our billing department verify insurance and let you know what the out-of-pocket cost would be, what the expected reimbursement would be if you have an Advantage plan. Yes? The question is, do you need a doctor's referral? And yes, if you're coming in for physical therapy, yes. But again, we'll get your doctor's name and number. We will call them and request that order for you if we think you're appropriate for therapy. To participate in any of the fitness activities, you do not need a doctor's order for the fitness side. Yes? Where are we located? We are on the corner of Lindbergh and Lime in the old Kmart Plaza, right next to Bella Chino's. And when they bake their bread, it smells delicious. So yeah, we're by South County Mall, but if you know South County, we're in the old Kmart Plaza. We're on the corner there of the strip. Good. Any other questions I can answer for you? Yes? Yes. So what she asked, the people that die within the first year of fracturing their hip, it is blood clots, pneumonia. So when we look at what causes debility in aging adults, it's inactivity, illness, and injury. So somebody that has a hip fracture has a huge injury, and then you add inactivity on top of it because they're not able to get up and move around like they were before. You're at risk for blood clots, for pneumonia, for infections, and just for not regaining your strength. So if you didn't have a lot of reserve, so when we look at your overall health, we look at physiologic reserve. If you were barely getting by day to day, if you're kind of living on the edge of being successful, and you fracture that hip, you've got nothing left in the tank. If you're robust and out living and you're exercising and living a full life prior to that hip fracture, you're more likely to recover. So a lot of it has to do with how physically fit, how medically healthy you were before that fracture. And if you were kind of struggling before that, the recovery process is much more challenging and difficult. But if you're exercising 3 days a week and taking care of your house and out running errands and you felt pretty good and you just happened to slip on some ice, but didn't have any other balance issues or anything else going against you, you're more likely to have a better recovery. So part of it is your physical health and fitness prior to the fall, but it's also the medical complications from the surgery, from immobility, and it's really the blood clots and the pneumonia and the infection. Yeah. Yes. Exercise is the number, she asked if it helps with people with osteoarthritis. Exercise is the #1 recommendation from the Arthritis Foundation to manage your arthritis aches and pains. So somebody with hip arthritis, it's not going to heal that arthritis, but what we do is, let's say if it is let's say my knee is just a little bit of an easier example. Every time I take a step, that impact travels up my leg to my hip or my knee, okay? And that can cause some pain if you already have arthritis. Now, the stronger my muscles get, my muscles act like shock absorbers to that joint. So if I strengthen my thigh muscle, then every time I take a step, instead of 75% of that impact going to my knee, maybe only 50% is going. Same thing with the hips, the low back, the shoulders, anywhere that you typically have arthritis, the stronger the muscles are surrounding that joint, the better they protect that joint. They keep better joint alignment so that they move the way they're supposed to instead of kind of getting out of alignment and getting off track. And they also absorb a lot of the shock and the impact of standing, walking, moving. So if you're having arthritis, aches, and pains, strength training is one of our best recommendations to manage it long term. So exercise. Yes, that's the take-home message, exercise. Yes. Yes.
What would be some good things just as preventative maintenance?
So you start easy. So you start facing a kitchen counter and walking sideways, holding on with some support. Then you walk sideways without support. Then you can get an exercise band and put it around your thighs to add some resistance. Then you can add some dynamic things. You can do grapevines, crisscrosses. You guys do that a lot in like square dancing, right? Okay, so things like this that challenge those sideways movements. You can make them bigger. We call these monster walks where you just take a really big step. Again, you can start this at the counter and get away from it. There's so many things that you can do just to be intentional about adding some sideways movements in. We do a lot of things on like a step, so you can do at your house, the bottom step and hold onto the railing and go down and up. That way you're moving sideways and you're strengthening your legs. Okay, there's literally hundreds of activities you can do, but those are some of the easy ones that don't take a lot of fancy equipment that you could do on your own at home. But yeah, just adding it back in is better than doing nothing at all. All right, guys. Well, I thank you so much for your attention today. I will stick around for a couple of minutes in case you had any questions that you didn't want to ask in front of everybody. Thanks. Mm-hmm.
What is the easiest way if you end up on the floor and your knees hurt? How would you get up if you don't have a chair or something? Would you roll
Yeah.
to a bed or a chair, or what would you do?
Yeah, so the question is, how do I get up off of the floor if my knees hurt? The first thing is you need to get used to putting pressure on your knees. So that can take some time. What we typically do is something called graded exposure. So let's say I've got really bad arthritis in my knee. I'm going to take a chair with like a nice soft cushion, and I'm just going to gently get some pressure on it. Maybe 10 seconds is all I can take. Great. And then I'm going to work up to 30 seconds. And then I'm going to work up to a minute. Okay? And then you get to do the other leg, and then you get to do both knees. So again, we're taking the actual up and down from the floor out of the picture, and we're teaching your body how to put pressure through your knees again. There are a lot of different ways to get up and down from the floor. It depends on if you're on your back or your belly. But oftentimes when people have knee pain, we tell them to roll over onto their belly, so however you've fallen. And then you can army crawl back to get into hands and knees. Now, if it really hurts to bend your knees, you have to be able to bear crawl. So this takes a lot of upper body strength. But you can, and we teach people to get into like a wide football stance, get a hand down, and then you can walk yourself down to the floor with almost having to put no pressure on your knees until the very bottom, and get back up. Some people are really successful in this if they've got good upper body strength, okay? The other ways to do it are to pick which knee is less painful. Oh, you said without a chair though, right? So, I mean, you can try to get on one knee, and then you've got to push. There's really not a way to get all the way up and down without bending your knees except for bear crawling, and that takes a lot of shoulder strength. But usually what people get stuck in is, if you look at all the pamphlets for like Life Alert and stuff, they'll tell you that if you fall to get into this side sitting position where your knees and hips have to bend a whole lot and then get from here to here. And we find that getting into this position is so hard to do. And then getting your butt from the floor and up, that takes so much strength, and that's where most people get stuck. So that's why we teach people to get onto your belly, because most people can do the army crawl back and get their hands up to then get to a chair. But it's a lot of, we start with like learning how to do a half kneel and a tall kneel and hands down for a lot of our people. You can get up and down from the floor just using your arms off of like a couch or a chair, but it better be a sturdy one because you're doing then. Okay, again, that takes a lot of arm strength, but we have a lot of people whose knees are so weak that they can learn that quicker. So kind of going off of a chair forward, but getting up is really hard. I can go down easy, and a lot of our patients can go down. If they need to get down on the floor, they just scoot to the edge, keep walking those heels out, and it's kind of an ungraceful plop. But getting back up, you've got to have a lot of shoulder motion and then strength to push your whole body up. So if the knees are the big issue, we tackle them head on, because you need them at some point to get up, especially if you're in a small or confined space where you don't have room to roll around. And we practice everything. It's a good question, though. Any other last-minute questions? Okay, perfect. Like I said, I'll stick around for a couple minutes, and then I know you guys are heading to lunch.
Oh, thank you very much. One more hand. For those of you that come to the Tuesday chair exercise classes, I'm going to be stealing some of your ideas because they are fabulous. But thank you again
You're
very
welcome.
much. And you're welcome to join us for lunch if you're so inclined.
Thank you. I might head back. There's something came up with your office before
Okay.
I left.
Okay. Is this yours or is this
No,
ours?
that's yours.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.